now to a press conference where we will learn the very latest information on that incident.
In Jefferson. Nathaniel Richmond as he tried to enter the courthouse early this morning. Mr. Richmond is deceased. His body has been taken for an autopsy and has been removed from Jefferson County. Judge Bruzzese is in stable condition. He has completed surgery, and we do expect him to survive the gunshot attack. The FBI is going to be here. They are on scene today. They are going to continue to work with our local law enforcement agencies as we work through this investigation. There isn't any more detailed information that we can give to you at this time, but we do want you to have that information, and we do appreciate the patience that you've shown us. You've been outside all morning and all afternoon today.
What's the age of Mr. Richmond?
I'll get that for you. I'll give you the details. We'll prepare a written press release for you that'll have the names and ages of both Judge Bruzzese and Nate Richmond. We're still in the early phase of this, but we'll get that and we'll release it to you.
Can you tell us how many times the judge was shot and where?
No, we're not going to release any of that information until we have all of the reports from the hospital. Similarly with Mr. Richmond, we obviously don't have an autopsy report yet. We want to wait until that information is completed before we release those details to the press.
Is the FBI still involved because they suspect this may be an act of domestic terrorism? Why would this be a federal charge?
No, the FBI is in charge, is helping with the investigation because we asked them to. It is not uncommon for cases that we work here in Jefferson County for us to partner with the people in the federal system. They have always provided excellent assistance to us, and that's what they're helping to do in this case. Oftentimes they have access to different types of information than we do, and they volunteer to help us in this case, and we're happy to have their help.
Does the second man in the car have the suspect?
Second man in the car, we are still investigating that. We are still meeting with that individual. Do not have any specific details to give you on that at this time.
Nothing about relation or anything like that?
Certainly that he and Mr. Richmond know each other. In terms of whether or not there's any connection between him and the shooting, I can't answer that yet.
Can you set aside the issue of whether or not the judge had received any threats prior to this, and whether the suspect was going to meet before the judge today, if that was out there as well?
I don't know that. I know there's been a lot of speculation about that. I don't know the information to that yet.
Is there any past case of Mr. Richmond that has been before the judge?
There are a number of cases involving Mr. Richmond throughout the past number of years in this judge's courtroom and in other judges' courtroom. Whether or not there's a connection between any of those prior appearances in that courtroom and today's action, we don't know the answer to that yet.
Is the shooter the suspect also the father of Malik Richmond?
Yes.
But this judge had nothing to do with that particular case.
This judge had nothing at all to do with that particular case. Malik's case was handled by a visiting judge who was not from this area, and he never appeared in Judge Brazzese's common pleas courtroom for any reason at all.
Is there any reason to believe? Is there reason to believe that there is a direct connect between Malik Richmond and
There's absolutely no reason to believe that there's any connection whatsoever between Malik Richmond and the actions of his father today.
And what kind of past cases has Nathaniel Richmond been involved in? I see that there is a wrongful death suit that was filed this year, and this particular judge is handling it.
There is that suit in particular. Mr. Richmond does have a criminal history, so there are past criminal appearances as well. There is a current pending suit here, and again, it's too early for us to tell whether there is any connection between that lawsuit and the incident that happened this morning.
Can you talk us through the events of this morning?
I can't in limited detail, both because it's still very early in the investigation, but Judge Bruzzese was approaching the courthouse, was on his way into work this morning when he was confronted outside the courthouse in the alley by the courthouse by Mr. Richmond.
Was he coming from his car or from...
He was coming from his vehicle to enter the courthouse.
Was he out drinking last night? What is his passenger telling?
Was who out drinking last night?
Nathaniel Richmond out drinking last night.
Like I said, we're still very early in the investigation in terms of talking with people who had contact with Mr. Richmond, and we'll know more of those details as we move along, but it's too early in the investigation to release any of that.
The suspect pulled up across from the courthouse at 13 minutes after 7. He left at 7:30 and arrived back at about 7:30, 7:35. And he waited in ambush to shoot the judge. The judge, as he was approaching, like the prosecutor said, coming to the courthouse steps, he ran toward the judge, shooting at him. The judge tried to return fire and dropped his weapon, and the judge was able to pick his weapon up. And at some point in time, he went right up to the judge, trying to shoot and shove the judge down on the ground. So they waited in ambush. It's a sad day in America where we have another judge shot in front of his courthouse.
Those are all of the details that we are going to release about the investigation at this time. Certainly, as we continue to learn more information, we will provide that to you as soon as we're able. Yes, my name is Jane Hamlin, Hanlin. I am the prosecuting attorney in Jefferson County.
I just want to be very, very clear about this. Is there any, I know he has a long criminal history, he's been known to a lot of different people. Is there any exact motive at this point for the shooting?
The motive at this point is unknown. And it's obviously something that we're still working on, but I can't give you any information on that just yet.
What do you say to other court employees in Jefferson County after today who are going to wonder if they're safe, traveling from the parking lot to the courtroom? What will be done in the future to make sure?
We will obviously have added security at the courthouse as we're working through this investigation. We will have counselors on scene at the courthouse tomorrow in case there are employees who certainly will be affected by this or who may have been present outside and coming to work as well. We will have counseling services available to them. We will, of course, monitoring everything that's happening in and around the courthouse in the coming days because we want not only the employees who work at the courthouse but all of the citizens of Jefferson County who come to the courthouse to conduct their business to feel safe when they're there, and we're going to take all appropriate steps to make sure that that happens.
Will judges have security detail now?
Well, we're still, like I said, in the very early hours. Certainly right now we have our judges protected. We have anybody that we think may be in harm's way protected, and we're going to take every precaution available, particularly while we're still working through the details of the case.
Do you think more people are in jeopardy of being harmed?
It's impossible to know that in the first 12 hours, but certainly we're going to do everything we can to make our community safe and to make our public officials safe. We're going to take all necessary steps to do that. We don't have any additional information to believe that, but like in every case where this happens, we're going to keep monitoring activity. We're going to keep talking to people who may have additional information, and as we get that, we'll take whatever additional steps we need to take.
Earlier you mentioned forged rumors.
One at a time.
Sheriff Abdullah, earlier when we interviewed you, you mentioned rumors of retaliation or things of that nature that you've heard in the community. What do you want the community to know about some of that hearsay going around the community as far as public safety goes?
There was grumbling and some talk of retaliation to shoot the officer that shot the suspect. And I hope that's all it is talk. But I can assure you, law enforcement from all around our county is called to assist us, as well as West Virginia. Force will be met with force. Simple as that.
What we would also say is if we have people in the community, certainly if they see threats made on any form of social media, if they receive information about that, obviously we would want them to share that information with us so that we can follow up. We want to make sure that the citizens that live here are safe and that all of the law enforcement officers are safe as well. So certainly if you're picking that up on the comments in social media or you see that somewhere else, obviously we would like to know that so we can do everything we can to keep everyone here safe.
So the surviving person in custody, just to be clear, does that person face any charges as of now? Is he someone who was innocently along for the ride, or someone who's a suspect of crimes against the
He is in custody right now, and we will continue to have communications with that individual as well as other witnesses who may have information about everything that happened, between last night and this morning. So the answer to your question right now is he is in custody. Whether or not he faces any criminal charges, it's too soon for me to answer that.
Is there anyone else who may be under investigation, who may be part of any conspiracy?
Not at this time. Not at this time.
How long can you hold this individual in custody without charges?
Hold him for 72 hours without charges, but what we're doing right now is working with that individual as well as other people who may have information about this crime to see whether any charges are warranted in this case.
Jane, what can you tell us about the probation officer who was also on the scene at the call?
I can tell you that he is safe. I can tell you that in all likelihood he probably saved the judge's life and that we are taking all necessary steps to make sure that he is safe as well.
What is his name?
We're not going to release that at this time. We will release it to you. We're not going to release it to you at this time.
Did he fire his weapon?
As the sheriff said, he did, and it is our obligation right now to make sure that he is safe and to make sure that his family members are safe. So that is the only reason that I'm not releasing his name to you. Certainly he is not suspected of any wrongdoing whatsoever. It's more for his safety and the safety of his family, and that's something that we have to take into consideration when we're releasing information as well, particularly in these early hours. Sure.
So that we can check public records on Mr. Richmond.
I will. I obviously don't have it in front of me. We will release that to you. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what kind of weapons were involved?
The answer to your question is yes, we do, and no, we're not going to release that yet.
Do you know how many shots there did he get?
No, we don't have the information to that yet.
Has the judge mentioned whether he wants to return anytime soon?
Way too soon for that. Way too soon for that. For us to even consider talking about it yet. Our thoughts and prayers are with Judge Bruzzese. He has served Jefferson County for decades, and right now our main priority is to make sure that he is safe, to make sure that the people of Jefferson County are safe, and to make sure that we know everything that we can about this attack that happened today.
Any indication of how long he'll remain in hospital?
Not yet.
Do you have any indication that whether when he fired, he struck the suspect?
I don't know that yet, and there's certainly ballistic information that we're going to have to wait to get back in the 8 hours since this has happened. We don't have that information yet, but certainly all necessary steps with the evidence will be taken so that we are able to determine absolutely what happened this morning.
We know that the judge was in surgery. Can you provide any details as to where in his body he was?
No, we don't want to release any of that information until we've had a chance to look at his medical records, speak with the people that are taking care of him, because what I don't want to do is release information to you that's preliminary in nature and then have to correct it later. So when we release information to you, we want to make sure that it's accurate, and so I can't release that just yet. That's okay. We will. It's a good question. We will probably, just given the nature of the interest in this case, it may be an email release, and so we'll have to take down that information, make sure we get it to everybody. Certainly it will always go to our local news station first, and I'm sure they have contacts for just about everybody else.
How do we get our
We can do that afterwards. Anybody that wants to leave a card, you want to be added to an email list, leave me some kind of card when you leave here today. I'll do everything I can to take care of it. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
A lot to digest there. Prosecutor Jane Hanlon doing the majority of the talking. We'll go down sort of the list, what she said in order here. First thing is the shooter has been identified as Nathaniel Richmond, or Nate Richmond. Richmond is dead. He was shot and killed with that return fire. It's not known yet. There is ballistics going to be done. It's not known yet if the judge's return fire struck him or if it was that probation officer. The probation officer is not being named. That's out of safety for him and his family at this time. Right now, the Judge Bruzzese, is in stable condition. He is expected to survive. The FBI is on scene today. They are going to be assisting in that investigation. They're not saying how many times right now the judge was shot, either or where on his body that Judge Bruzzese was shot this morning. Like we said, Nathaniel Richmond is dead. He was the shooter earlier today. That second man, and there's video of Nathaniel Richmond. This is from the Steubenville teen rape case. He is the father of Malik Richmond. Of course, Malik Richmond was found delinquent in that case. Right now, there is no tie from Malik to the actions of his father today. That's according to Prosecutor Jane Hanlon. But Nathaniel Richmond, father of Malik Richmond, was the shooter today. That's according to the Jefferson County Prosecutor Jane Hanlon. He is dead this afternoon, shot and killed in return fire from either the judge or the probation officer that was on scene at the time. Right now, that second man who was involved, he was taken into custody. They're still investigating whether he knew exactly what was going to happen today or if he just happened to be along for the ride, as one person phrased it in that press conference. They are speaking with him. They can hold him, Prosecutor Jane Hanlon said, for 72 hours, and we do have video of that arrest. We're going to play that for you just here. Right outside the Huntington Bank, you can see there that man was taken into custody We also had video of him lying on the ground at some point earlier today as he was being taken into custody. And like we said, he is being questioned at this hour. Sheriff Fred Abdullah said he spoke very briefly here. The majority of the talking was done by Prosecutor Jane Hanlon. The sheriff said that the two suspects at 7:13 this morning were waiting outside the courthouse. Then Richmond, they actually left for about 5 to 7 minutes, according to Sheriff Abdullah, came back. Richmond ran toward the judge shooting and actually shoved the judge to the ground. Sheriff Abdullah calling it a sad day in America. Some of the retaliation talk throughout the day has been, this is a photo of Judge Joseph Bruzzese right now. He is stable tonight and is expected to survive. Sheriff Abdullah talking about some talk of retaliation. He said that law enforcement from all over the area is assisting those in Jefferson County and in Steubenville right now and are prepared. And he says force will be met with force if indeed that does happen. So many have urged caution, though, today in doing that. We are taking a photo now. This is a photo that a viewer took. That is Judge Joseph Bruzzese lying on the ground, aid being rendered to him. If I'm not mistaken, yes, that is that photo. This was taken again by a viewer earlier today outside the courthouse. It was happened in an alley. That is Judge Michelle Miller. She is a nurse and also, of course, a Jefferson County judge. She was also on scene right after it happened, rendering aid as well. And right now, the judges in the area are in protective custody, according to Prosecutor Hanlon. She said that anyone who may be in danger, and there's the suspect, like I said a couple of moments ago, being arrested. That's the photo of him on the ground. That second suspect, who we do not have an identity of that suspect just yet. That's not being released, but we will bring that to you as soon as we get it. A very active scene, a whole lot going on, a lot to digest. Right now, there is added security at the courthouse for anyone who works there and anyone who is going to be there in the next couple of days. And they will have counselors available for any employees there who might be shaken up, of course, traumatized by today's event. Like I said, the judges currently in protective custody. Jane Hanlon has asked anyone who sees any threats, whether they are direct or whether they sound fishy to anyone, to please call law enforcement if they see any threats directed toward any law enforcement officials, toward any judges, and anyone in general, of course, stemming from this incident. As Sheriff Abdullah said, there has been some talk of retaliation. The probation officer is safe tonight. His name not being released. Again, out of an abundance of caution for the safety of he and his family, Prosecutor Hanlon did say that his name will be released, just not today, not so soon after the incident happened. Of course, we've got the very latest. We're going to have much more coming up at 5 o'clock, so just in about 40 minutes here on News 9 Live at 5 and continuing on News 9 at 6 all evening. Stick with us on social media and on WTOV9.com. We'll bring any new details that may develop as we learn them. That's all we have for you for right now. Like I said, we'll have the very latest on this case coming up on News 9 Live at 5. We'll see you then.